Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Mondays with Maishi. It is now June 24th, 2024, just after 9 o'clock p.m. And here we are with another unique episode. As I said, we have been going through some out-of-the-box episodes. You know, we had a lone soldier from the IDF talk about his emotional experiences of combat. We've done some other interesting things. And right now, tonight, we are going to be discussing the topic of stuttering. You know, we've all seen people struggle with stuttering. I've had friends, personally, I've had friends who stuttered, some of them with really, really intense stutters, others with more mild stutters. I can remember back in elementary school where I had classmates who stuttered. And, you know, for when you're living with these people from 4 years old through 14 years old throughout elementary school years, you kind of just get used to this is how they are and who they are. But then on the other hand, I can remember going to Israel to learn and coming in with a whole new batch of boys, of young men. We were 21 maybe 21 at the time or something. And there was one boy who I introduced myself to him and I asked him a question and he kind of just like stared at me and wasn't answering. And it took me like a minute because he had such a hard time getting his words out that it literally, I mean, we're talking about 30, 40 seconds until he finally was able to get the word out, until it dawned on me that he was actually stuttering. And I don't want to be honest to myself, but I think that at the time I kind of either smirked or burst out laughing just from the shock experience. I would never laugh at somebody who stutters, but from the shock experience, it was like I was kind of bewildered that I asked someone a question, he just staring at me and contorting his face a little bit, but till I realized what was going on. And the shock factor, you know, had me sort of laugh or chuckle. And it was a terribly eye-opening experience to me of, you know, my own experience in this presence of a stutterer, and really, really got me wondering what it's like for somebody with a severe stutter to live among other people. Do they even realize that they have it? How much do they realize? Does it affect relationships? Do they recognize or realize that it affects relationships? There was just so many questions that I always wondered about. And of course, never had the guts to actually sit down with somebody who stutters and say, hey, what's it like for you? You know, it just felt maybe wrong or offensive or mean, you know, and you know, on the other hand, if they're oblivious to it and to the effects that it has, then why open a can of worms and make them self-conscious? So, you know, at that age, I decided not to open up any can of worms, just to be friendly and friends, and obviously be with it. It seemed kind of natural to not finish their sentences or their words when I heard them stuttering, but I was never sure. And then you feel bad for them because they're struggling so much to get the word out. You want to help them to get that word out and you know, make it easier for them. So tonight we have on as a presenter Yanky Kaufman, who is a speech expert here in Lakewood, New Jersey, right down the road from me. And Yanky's been through his own journey. Yanky has you won't know this from listening to him tonight, but he's gone from I don't know what you want to call it, level 10 stutterer or level 9 stutterer, 9 of 10, to a stuttering master, where he has a program called, what is it called? Speech Service Solutions?
Smooth speech
Smooth.
solution. If you could say it 3 times fast, you don't
I
have to
couldn't
come.
get that out. Smooth Speech Solution, where he's actually codified or created a method that helps stutterers. And I have seen some, and I'm working with my Freudian brain, where I am certain that I'm going to be stuttering more in tonight's show than I ever have before, and I can feel it coming. So we're going to talk about this, maybe some of the psychogenic aspects of stuttering tonight too. But where I've seen some of the work. You know, typically I don't allow people on who are not from the mental health profession or somehow some way related. Yankee tried to make the argument that it's like mental health related because stuttering and people really struggle from it, but then you can make that about anything. But the truth of the matter is that I have seen firsthand some of the work that Yankee's done, some of the results, and perhaps tonight I'll show you some of those. And I have been absolutely, my mind's been blown. and it takes a lot to do that to me. You know, I consider myself a cynic, and to see what he has done is absolutely incredible. And that's the real reason that I agreed to feature this concept. I mean, how many of us either know people in our personal lives or professionally that are, you know, tremendous and terrible stutterers? And if this is something that can help them and save them, and it's different than all the other programs that are out there, I think it's a mitzvah farsim, and you know, people should know about it. Yankee, first of all, just want to thank you for doing this with us and sharing to the mental health community, you know, so what you have to offer. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Maisha. Really appreciate it. And I really enjoy talking about stuttering. I think the more we talk about it, the more education we have, the more clarity we will have, and thereby we'll be able to help more people to improve their lives.
Amazing. Just before we start, I want to remind everybody that tonight's show, as we've been for the past quite some while, is sponsored by OKclarity.com. OKclarity.com is a website in which you can promote yourself. You can create your own website that they will host. They take care of everything pretty much soup to nuts. I mean, obviously, if you want to record something by yourself, they can't do that for you. That's your own recording. But they will put it up and host it on the website, and you can feature yourself so that people out there can get to know you, can get to see your work. You can promote yourself. You can talk about workshops and talks that you give, groups that you serve, populations that you serve, and of course your mental health or any other professional helping field. You can promote yourself on that website. It's probably worth it to sign up and subscribe to their service, because if you get even just one client out of it that comes to you just 2 or 3 times, you know, chances are that the service will pay for itself. And certainly if they come for a whole year or 2 or 3 or 5, or if you get 5 clients out of it, it's a tremendous investment. And it's also just a way to get more face and for people to see you and who you are and the work that you do. So even if, you know, sometimes you don't get clients or an influx of clients directly from them, you still have your face and name and work out there and get to show what you do. We're also sponsored by OfficeStreamline.com, which is a virtual secretary service. Again, if you save an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours a week, that you can get clients and see clients and get paid clinical hours for. And this is a you know, drop in the bucket in terms of expense. It's very, very affordable, and you have a secretary who takes care of all that phone calls and responding to calls and scheduling, and they take care of all that for you. So if you save a couple of hours a week, that's straight cash flow into your pocket. So OfficeStreamline.com and OKclarity.com, definitely take a look at them. Okay, Yankee, I know nobody here is going to believe it, but you were a level 9 or 10 stutterer. Tell us a little bit about your journey, what it was like to stutter. What's it like being in a social environment? What's it like on your mental health, on your emotional health? Tell us a little bit about your history.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. So I started stuttering as far back as I can remember from when I started speaking. And when I was young, I wasn't necessarily as weird that I had a stutter, but my parents brought me the traditional way for a speech therapist, I guess, and all different types. And there was nothing really happening. Nothing was working. We were playing a lot of games, trying all different kinds of regular speech therapy, but nothing was improving. So they decided to take a little break after 5 years of speech therapy and said, we'll wait till he gets a little bit older. Maybe he could perform the exercises or go for a different program when he's at the right age. My bar mitzvah came. That's one of the, besides for the daily grind, which we'll talk about, but then you have these points in your life that are very intimidating when you're in the spotlight. For example, at one's bar mitzvah, when they turn 13, they have to speak. So there was a question in my mind, should I speak or should I not speak? I'd rather have not spoke, but I felt that would stand out more if I didn't speak while everyone else was speaking, and then it would be in the spotlight. Oh, Yanky's not speaking because, oh, he stutters, and that's why he's so different than everyone else. Everyone else speaks, but he doesn't. I mean, he knows how to talk, right? And he could say a Devar Torah, so why isn't he? Oh, everyone knows because he can't be like everyone else. He can't talk. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to do it. And after my bar mitzvah speech or lack thereof, that's pretty much all I remember from my bar mitzvah, trying to get the words out. It was time to go to a specialist. And really, just to make a long story short, I've been around in speech therapy and stuttering specialist for around 15 years. So I've stuttered until I was 26. I would like to talk about, in general, the challenge of stuttering. So there's four main aspects of stuttering. One is what we'll call the superficial, what everyone sees, and that is the actual stuttering. Now, if we have time, we'll just go through some basic diagnostics of stuttering. Stuttering is in the DSM, so mental health professionals should know about this. So number one, you have probably the most popular one is the repetitions, just that you'll get a little bit better idea. We will speak about the more diagnostics, but the basic, there's three types of stuttering, and one is the repetitions, when a person will repeat certain letters, syllables, or words. Number two is the hesitations, where a person will have a pause. And the third, an unnatural pause, we'll say it like that. And number three is this is the least common, is the prolongation, where a person may prolong. So just for illustrative purposes, repetition may sound like Yankee Kaufman. Hesitation may be Yankee Kaufman. And prolongation may sound like Yankee Kaufman or Yankee Kaufman. Okay? So this is challenge number one. You want to say something, it's not coming out how you want it to. That's the lowest level. Number two is what we switch. When we are afraid of a harder word, we will switch for an easier word. This is called circumlocutions, when we switch for an easier word. Now, people who stutter are very good at this. So sometimes you'll have people with a slight stutter who are constantly playing this game of switching to easier words. We may look at them like, what's the big deal? Why do you want to go for therapy? Why making such a big deal out of it? It's like in your brain, something like that. But really, you may tally up on your fingers how much times they actually stutter. Like we said before, the superficial diagnostics of stuttering, but when you consider how much they are switching, that could be much more often than they actually stuttered. And people who stutter are very creative. We're desperate to not stutter, and therefore we'll be very good at switching what we want to say. For example, try to catch me on this. My number when I was growing up was 3801. Now, really, I want to say 38, slow motion, 38, but I felt that couldn't go out. So I said 3801. Okay, so we're very good at this. Sometimes we may switch and it can be a little bit awkward. Just for illustrative purposes, we'll say a joke and we want to get to the punch, a punch, and the punch, punchline. So we'll try to avoid that. But when we avoid it, sometimes we'll switch words that are also awkward. For example, we'll try to beat around the tree. Is that how the expression goes? Beat around the tree or beat around the bush? Beat around the bush. Maybe you picked up on it, you saw it was a little bit awkward, but it was okay. Well, what about for the person who stutters? They feel, oh, look at that, I almost blew it. I really blew that one. It's not beat around the tree, it's beat around the bush. And we'll feel bad about that we're not capable of saying what we really want to say. That's number two. Number three is what we avoid. Sometimes we'll feel we may be more prone to stutter in certain situations, or we're apprehensive of a certain situation based on experiences of the past that this could be hard, and we'll try to avoid that. Now, it could be avoid asking a question. It could be avoiding introducing yourself. It could be avoiding just socializing with other people. People would rather stay home. People would rather walk by themselves. People would rather pretend that their phone doesn't work than speak with other people. That's already a major challenge.
Very isolating because you're sort of trapped in your body or trapped in your head.
Right, and we may not tell other people. Sometimes we'll avoid, there's different facets of this, but let's say we're on the phone and we're having a regular conversation. All of a sudden we're getting stuck. And what many people have done is just hang up the phone and pretend, tell the person, oh, sorry, my phone died. So people say, oh, it doesn't really stutter. His phone just died. But we know our phone didn't die. our mouth didn't work, and we're embarrassed of it. And a lot of people don't understand stuttering so well, so they're not sure, was that a stutter? You know, especially when it's a slight or moderate stutter. What was that?
Mhm.
So we'll so people won't know even that we're having that struggle. So that what makes it just compounds that loneliness of having the struggle. And number four is the fear of stuttering, that we may not, that even if we speak well and we'll speak in public, but other people may say, hey, spoke fine, I didn't see any stutter. But we know how much fear we had before we spoke, and it happened to go well. But we weren't sure about that. So we weren't just nervous about, like everyone else, public speaking was a little scary, but we were afraid that maybe we'll stutter. I'll give an example. Let's say a person's dancing at a wedding, and sometimes your shoe may fall off. Now you may say there's nothing wrong with you, it's not your fault, something with your foot, whatever it is, but most people's shoes don't fall off. And people don't understand, why is your shoe falling off? I mean, who does that? I mean, it's possible your shoe may fall off, but most people's shoes don't fall off, and you may not even know when it's going to fall off, and it could be at a very awkward time. So that's the same idea. Like maybe we'll go to Chassan and say everything was fine. Our shoe did not fall off, but we're afraid maybe our shoe will fall off, and we don't know how to make it not fall off. So these are the four basic challenges of understanding people who stutter.
Well, one of the things that's so striking to me from, from a mental health perspective is the degree of energy that needs to go into coping mechanisms. We talk so much about how people create different coping mechanisms in order to uh, um, deal with emotions and to suppress emotions or deny emotions or, and fear, and the degree of coping mechanisms that you both have to design, develop, and then um, condition yourself with is just astronomical and must take up so much energy, and also distract from other areas of pleasure that you would normally engage in if not for the stutter and for all that energy. That it must be exhausting.
You hit the nail on the head. Exactly.
So here's where I guess some of the mental health stuff is going to come in. Can we take a question from Khana? Go ahead.
Thank you. As you've been talking, what I'm struck is very similar along the lines of what Maishi is saying, which is how all of this, you have to be busy all the time with all of these considerations, let's call this, and you're busy all the time, and it so gets in the way of simple human connection, which I'm sure every stuttering child longs for. To me, this feels like agony.
Well, I'm getting what can I say? I feel very validated, getting a good that's one of the reasons why I like to speak to mental health professionals, is they're people who really get it, how this can affect a person. And like I said, you're spot on.
Okay.
Thank you
Quick
for that.
question. This is a technical question because you talked about your bar mitzvah speech. Reading off a paper, does that change anything for stutterers?
So in general, there's all different types of people who stutter. Most people will stutter the same when they have conversation or read. Um, it depends what they're reading, who they're reading to, if they're comfortable. It's not so much the reading, it's more about the environment and the situation. So some people may not stutter at all, but that would be the exception to the rule. Sometimes, usually when it's exact things that you have to read, meaning because it's exact, sometimes we'll stutter more because, like we were saying the whole time, that we're trying to wiggle out of things. So when it comes to reading, we can't really switch. That's why a lot of times for men, when there's coming to get an aliyah in shul, when they're called up to the Torah to make a blessing, we have an exact version of what we need to say, and that could be very hard because besides that, everyone's waiting for us, and we're in the spotlight. There's no wiggle room. I've seen as clients many public speakers who people would be shocked that they actually stutter. Like we said, a lot of people come with a slight stutter. We're not so aware of it, but when they public speak, they're good at switching what they want to say. They're very smart. They're very creative, and they could get the point across in many different ways, or they could switch topics. But when they have an exact thing to say, that could be very, very hard for them.
But Yankee, what about singing? I haven't ever met a stutterer who has a problem singing. Is that right?
Yeah,
Why
that's
is that?
that's. I mean, I'll tell you what people say. It's a different part of the brain. I think there's a lot more to it, but there's a lot of people. You also have when people speak by themselves, they don't stutter. So it's again in general. So it's very
Why are they talking to themselves?
so funny. I would think mental health professionals would encourage people to speak by themselves, but I think it's a good idea. I mean, if it's done in a healthy way, that's you using it to improve yourself. I remember I once overheard someone saying to them, speaking to himself, "Hey, do you ever think trees talk?" Yeah, I think trees talk, and but we're not talking about that type. We're talking about people who prepare a speech, read something, even davening. I mean, there's no human being there, so that could most people won't stutter by themselves. When we stutter more, it's usually when there's more pressure, when there's more things going on.
Right. So that's part of what I guess what I'm trying to figure out is there a concept of a physical stutter? And if there is, then why does it not apply to, to singing or to speaking to oneself if it's a physical disability? And I'm sure that there's psychological stuttering or psychogenic stuttering. And I wonder how much the two affect each other. You know, I imagine that if there's a stutter, then all that pressure and tension, you know, is going to compound it. But is there such a thing as a physical, a physiological stutter? And then why doesn't it apply across the board?
This is going to be hard to answer all these different points. There's very getting into the crux of all aspects of stuttering. But I think let's talk a little bit about where stuttering can come from,
Yes.
and then maybe that will help shed light on these very fundamental questions. So there's three places where stuttering can come from, and I'll take a step back again. It's going to be much more complex than this. But let's kind of, we still want to get an understanding and not leave like, I still don't get it. So let's have a basic understanding. What is involved in speech? So again, very basic, is we have our brain, cognition, our emotions, and our speech motors. These three are the main components. Now there's other aspects also. I'm just simplifying things to get some type of clarity. Any aspect of these three areas, if they're not functioning well, or they're above average, okay? The main thing is that there's not a balance. Even slightly, it's enough to get a person off track and they can start stuttering. So that's why you can have people start stuttering from emotional places. This is called psychogenic stuttering, either from a trauma, or it doesn't have to be one incident that caused major emotional turbulence. It could be what we call developmental trauma over a period of time. For example, a difficult school year, transitioning from, let's say, 8th grade, homeschool, meaning staying at home, transitioning to then sleeping not at home in your comfort zone. We're going to a new place with new people and maybe a more intense schedule. That could also bring out a stutter. So that could be, we call psychogenic stutter. Other one is, this is where it starts, most popular is developmental stuttering. There's a lot of aspects going on. The speech motors figuring everything out, social aspects, expressing oneself, language, and again, it's complicated, but any area that's slightly off can bring out a stutter. The third one, this is probably the least common, is neurogenic stuttering, which is sourced in the brain. So sometimes after a stroke, people may start stuttering. I found that sometimes people after taking certain pills, too much or different types, they can start stuttering. Sometimes after surgery, like a physical thing, and that affecting their blood flow, that could affect stuttering. I've had someone in their 60s, and this goes a while ago, who started stuttering in the 60s, and it was because he told me he never stuttered before. In his 60s, he started taking drugs. So if there's one thing you're going to take out of this discussion tonight, it's just say no to drugs. So these are the foundational aspects of understanding where can stuttering come from. But it's more important, not so much the initial aspects, because when you're treating someone who stutters, you're usually not addressing the initial aspects, because when it's initial aspects, we don't know if it's a stutter, maybe it'll go away, maybe it'll get better. So it's hard to know what exactly it's from. A lot of times there's a combination of aspects. So that's not so important. I mean, we'll address maybe later where it is very important, especially for mental health professionals, to nip it in the bud. But generally speaking, when we're treating stuttering, we're talking about somebody who's already stuttered for a while. And therefore, it gets complicated because things tend to go downhill after studying for a while, because usually everything gets pulled into it. It affects every aspect, because when you're talking, all these aspects are happening so quickly in your speech that if one thing's off, everything gets involved and everything's pulled into it. And usually when someone is going for help for stuttering, even if it came from a certain place, usually the challenge of stuttering takes everything over. So for example, maybe somebody started stuttering from let's say a car crash. I've seen plenty of those. So usually when they're going for therapy, they're not going for therapy because of the trauma from the car crash. Especially if it's, I mean, it depends obviously to what level, but or whatever the original trigger was. Usually once they're stuttering for a while, now what they care about primarily is their stuttering. They want to get help for that because, like we said, it's so pervasive and so chronic that's the challenge of stuttering is usually what takes over other challenges.
I'm super curious. Are there people who treat the trauma of the car accident and then stop stuttering as a result?
Okay, so let's get into this. What I would recommend is like this. If it's clear what the emotional turbulence was, then that's when I would recommend to go to a mental health professional to see if that could be addressed. And like they say, easy come, easy go. Maybe you can address it if they feel more secure and understand what's going on and they settle down, then it's a very good chance that their stuttering will go away. However, again, doesn't mean always, but that's when I would recommend a person who stutters to see a mental health professional before a speech therapist. Because if you could just nip it in the bud, that would be the easier route, and that should probably be addressed anyway. So that's what I would recommend. Now, the thing is, once a person is stuttering for a while, it gets embedded in a person. So the allegory that the professionals give is, let's say a person lights a match and it catches to a tree. Okay, so you see, you want to get to the source, and let's say we know what the source is. It's not always so simple, right? Especially if it's developmental trauma, it could be various different aspects. But let's say it's clear, let's say by a car crash. And by the way, it doesn't have to be that, I'm sure you will notice that with trauma, it doesn't mean that it comes out the next day. Sometimes it does. It could be over the next few weeks that things start to come out. But for whatever reason, let's say you can be confident that, let's say you could be confident that you could get to the source. But once a person is stuttering for a while, just like when you extinguish the original match, if you could do it right away, then the fire's out. But once it catches to the tree, just because you get to the source, that doesn't mean that the fire's gone. So same thing with stuttering. Initially, it's not so embedded in a person, and you can address what needs to be addressed, and there's quite a good chance that the stuttering will go away. However, once the person is stuttering, again, this is a party line answer. The professionals like to say 6 months. Once 6 months go by, and it became embedded in them, again, it depends on what age, but the more aware they are, the more intense it is, the more we see behavioral aspects of their stuttering, which means like you mentioned before in the introduction about someone who was making facial, it's called secondary behaviors. One of them are tics or blinking. So then we see it's getting more embedded. It's affecting them physically. Then that means the stuttering is becoming more embedded in them. And there's less chance we have of it going away. So that's what I would say if you can nip it in the bud, then nip it in the bud. But once a person's stuttering for a while, it may not help to go to the source of it. You may see some, anecdotal things about this kind of thing, but for the most people, it's not going to work. I've seen this.
Right.
I'll just bring it illustrated with one example. Again,
But psychedelics will cure everything. So they'll just clean your brain slate completely clean, and then you're healed from everything. So you may even forget the words. You don't have to start learning words over again. But okay. Yankee, I just have to say that listening to you talk, okay, watching and listening to you speak so articulately, I'll be darned if you're actually circumventing the real words and coming up with replacement words. That would be way too smooth. And it's just, it's really, really beautiful to know that there's a story behind this, and to be able to witness, how far a person can come. It's just incredible.
Sure.
Okay. Yankee, I know I've seen some of your work firsthand, and I know that you have a video out on social media or somewhere out there online that has some testimony, not just testimonials, but actual testimony as to some of the work that you do. Would it be okay if I show some of it to our audience now?
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there any time frame? I know it's like a 10-minute video. How much of it should
like 3 minutes into it would probably be most interesting for right now.
I see right at the beginning there are some befores. Do we want to miss those? Or did he send me the wrong video?
I have a lot of videos. I guess you could start, then we'll
Okay.
see.
So you can just message me. Okay. All right. Let's do it. Not so scary. Take the part away.
My name is Irvin.
And mascolo. Stressful.
Hi, my name is Yankee Kaufman. As a former heavy stutterer, I'm on a mission to help each individual who stutters open up and be able to speak fluently and easily. Although, Baruch Hashem, now, for the last 8 years, I speak with complete fluency in my speech. For almost 3 decades, it was not like that.
My rabbi told me about that there was someone who knows how to help people with stuttering problems, and he told me that it's a very good idea to come. So therefore, that's why I'm coming here, and I hope that Hashem will help me out a lot.
Once a person who was going down a river, and the Rahman al-Islam, he was flowing down it, and there was a cliff, there was a waterfall, and suddenly he caught onto a piece of wood, and he saved himself.
Shalom, my name is Naftali Mendel Schloss. Baruch Hashem, I was by Rabbi Yanky 4.5 years ago, and I learned the method, Baruch Hashem. It's working very good for me. Baruch Hashem, I could say after 4.5 years, it's mamish working.
My name is Irvin.
Irvin what?
Oogie.
Where do you live?
I live in Lakewood.
How old are you?
I am 29.
What's your name?
My name is Irvin Oogie.
How old are you and where do you live?
I am 29 and I live in Lakewood.
You like this method?
I love this method.
What are other people saying about this?
Other people are absolutely amazed by my speech.
Out of all the speech therapy, hypnosis, psychiatrists, and speech therapists that you went to, think this is the best one?
This is absolutely the best one.
What therapy have you tried in the past?
I've been to a clinic where they taught me tricks and I've also been to
This method is practical, not hard, and has changed my life.
How would you describe the challenge of stuttering to someone who never stuttered?
very annoying and stressful. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר תשנו במצוות וציוונו להדגנה של חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעושה ניסים לעמנו בימים ובחיים בזמן הזה.
I'm really happy. I have a lot more friends. Thank you, Rabbi Kaufman.
What's your exact address?
I feel a great amount of confidence when I use this speaking method. It empowers me. It engages me to speak the words that I want to in the manner that I wish to.
Larry Karen, and this is how Shmuel would say Larry Karen, Shane Hanal Zika. It doesn't have any damages. It's other much more holds. It's Shane. The Haber and Haber is a fire. Larry Shar Karamaba. Can't learn Shar from Abba, but Larry Maba Karashar.
Can I ask you, Shiloh? You like this method?
It's a very good and easy method.
How's speech going?
I don't feel like a stutterer anymore.
I just stopped now on a course that we were giving. I saw 18 people from Baltimore, from Michigan, from all different places. And I asked all of them at different levels of stuttering. And I asked everyone from where you are, where you're learning, and they used the method of Yanky. And believe it or not, everyone answered where he learns.
Hi, I'm Officer Romeo. I was invited by Mr. Kaufman for his stuttering class. Here I met with 12 individuals from his class. Each and every one of them explained to me their situation. We're able to have a conversation with absolutely no stutter. Mr. Kaufman showed me videos of before and after of each individual, and I was amazed on the experience that I witnessed. If anybody has a stuttering issue, I highly recommend Mr. Kaufman's class.
Okay, can we get a round of applause? I found that to be, I've been following these videos for the past, Yankee, how many? 3, 4, 5 years. And I just can't, it leaves me speechless, no pun intended. But really, I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible. And you can see the relief. I was just tuning in. I'm sure, so many mental health professionals on here now, and so many who are going to watch this. And the degree of feelings that came up in the before, in terms of literally, I felt my body tensing up tremendously. The shame, the embarrassment, the frustration, the fear, and then to be able to see the product and the results afterwards. I feel like I'm doing like a YouTube commercial, but really, I mean, this isn't the fake stuff. This is what we see. So, I think at this point, I still have some more questions. I'm wondering if anybody else has any questions or comments. And if you do, please raise your hand using the reactions tab on the bottom right of your screen. I have questions, as it pertains to the other people in the stutterer's life, such as parents. What should and shouldn't they do? And friends, what should and shouldn't they do? People, or even strangers with whom we engage stutterers. And then I really want to talk about the role of mental health professionals. So before we do, let's take a question from Bela. Bela, if you can turn on your video, that would be awesome. If you can't, then just unmute and we'll listen to you.
Okay, I'll save the video for a different time.
Yeah, you said that last time, I think.
First of all, thank you very much. I'm finding it extremely interesting. I'm wondering, I see sometimes kids have my toddler like that, who spoke very fluently, full language by the age of, let's say, very early, 1 and a bit maybe, had like quite a full language. Now he's 2.5, yet complete language, like overdeveloped for his age, and all of a sudden now he's starting to stutter. And it's funny because I get started like looking into this thing, and I hear other people telling me, oh, I had that with my kid, I had that with my kid. Like, what is it that happens all of a sudden after a kid already knows how to, the kid didn't go through a trauma or anything like major, like what is it that like causes it to happen?
Right. Okay, so we mentioned before that there's many different things that could cause it. Anything to do with the brain, anything to do with their emotions, anything to do with their speech motors. I've gotten this question many times. Sometimes it's from someone having a extra in one area, more powerful in one area. That's taking over, and other skills are not necessarily as developed as much or not balanced enough, and therefore they may stutter. And this is the developmental stuttering stage. Like you said, they're very young. Even though they have language, there's still a lot of other aspects. There's social aspects, and the truth is that it's even in a developmental stage, it could be a little bit of emotions that play a role as well. But really, I'll answer both questions. What Moshe wanted to bring up, what can parents do with younger children? So basically, for children at this younger age, when they're still developing their speech, professionals say between the ages 2 to 7, I found, it could be, that's a gray area, but I found that maybe age 2 to 9, they can still be developing the speech, and there's a lot of aspects that can be going on. Even, I just mentioned a few others. We said about the brain, lack of sleep, nutrition can play a role. I mean, there's so many aspects in how the brain works and that it should be functioning healthfully. Like I said, anything that could be a little bit off track can cause, it just needs a little bit to get off track. And again, once the stuttering, then it gets compounded. So basically what parents should know is you want to help your child develop their speech as best as they can. And this is something that I believe that parents can do in a way much more than speech therapists can do, because you're around your children much more and you can be much more helpful. And it could be that in the home environment, again, in general, there's something lacking over there that parents have to fix anyway. So there's a lot of not to do's and there's a lot of to do's. We actually have a whole seminar for this. It's around an hour and a half of what parents can do to help develop your child's speech. But primarily, it's if you just want to know the direction you want to go and you want to help your child develop his speech. And I'll just tell you one aspect that's the most common theme is that you want to give them attention, that they feel comfortable expressing themselves. So that's what I would say is, just for now, what can be helpful if a parent sees a child.
Meaning you want to mitigate the shame and have them feel very comfortable so that they can build in the confidence and not compound layer upon layer of anxiety.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. What about in terms of peers? So you're talking about young children who are stuttering, but what about, like the story I had where I came across a peer who I hadn't known was a stutterer, and here I am engaging now in friendship and a relationship with him, and just wondering, should I let him finish his word or should I help him? It'll be better for him and for me if I can help him finish his word. First of all, I'll feel better because I saved him, which is my MO. But also just in terms of the conversation being more enjoyable for us, not having to wait, so to say, and things like that.
Right. Okay, so I've interviewed many people who stutter and asked them this question. Most people do not want you to finish off what they want to say because they feel more incapable, that people have to finish off what they want to say. And they know what they want to say usually. That's number one. Number two, if you correct them, then they're always at edge. Maybe you're gonna, intervene now, maybe then, and they're just getting them more off track. They're always nervous. So they have to jumpstart because maybe you're gonna correct them.
But aren't they nervous if you don't correct them that you're gonna get annoyed or impatient? And isn't there an advantage to being corrected, to being, having finished the sentence for them or the word?
Right. So what you should do is just be patient with them as much as you can, as much as you can muster up. Feel this person is just having a hard time saying it. Similarly, if a 3-year-old would be talking to you and not sure what they want to, it's taking some time, you'd be patient. Like they're trying their best, give them a chance. So too with someone who stutters, give them a chance because they'll be more comfortable if they feel that you're giving them a chance and you're okay with how they're talking. Now, and I was talking before is more what not to do. To correct them, they're going to feel, again, it's going to get them off. It's just going to make things more confusing. And one thing's for sure. Now, I'll tell you one more thing. If they have a heavy stutter, and like you described, it could be 30 seconds, and it could be much more than that. I remember, so then you may want to intervene. Now, I remember when I went to a lot of speech therapists, I was around 15 years ago, 20 years ago, that was becoming more popular for people going for speech therapy to also go to mental health professionals. And I remember someone telling me, why are you getting so hung up about stuttering? It's just a matter of time till you say it. I was like, hey, interesting perspective. It's a matter of time. Again, all these type of encouragement usually lasted till the next bout of stuttering. But I passed this information by some of my clients. I said, what do you think about this? And they told me, no, it's not a matter of time. I could get stuck for 5 minutes. So when you're dealing with that type of situation where you don't know if it's going to be 30 seconds, 2 minutes, then most of the people said that they would want you to help them out on one condition. You have to know what they want to say. For example, let's say you're asking me what sport I want to play. So, I mean, it sounds much better if we do it in tractate or tractate on learning. It'll be much more complicated.
Many of the sports start with a B, I imagine, right?
Right, so it'll be much more fun with tractates that start with the B. So let's go. You're asking me, hey, Yanky, you didn't see in a long time.
What are you learning?
What are you learning? No, you're going to try to help me out, okay?
What's
Bava
Metzia? Is it Bava Metzia?
No. No. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Bava Kama?
No.
Beitza.
No.
Bava Basra.
No.
Are there any other ones?
Bechiris. So that's something that's very important. I know people try to correct me sometimes, and that would happen for real. So one thing is you have to know what they want to say. If you want to do it very savvy, you could do it like this. You want to rephrase the question and then ask them in a yes or no way. For example, I had a guy who wanted to know if he could come for I knew he wanted to come for Shabbos. It was Thursday. So I knew he wanted to say Shabbos. So I looked at the clock. I had my 20, 30-second rule. And I said, whatever his name was, Yossi, you want to know if you could come for Shabbos? And then he blurted out, yeah. I was thinking, like, why did he blurt out yes? Like, whoa, I just asked you a yes or no question. And I realized that he so much wanted to be involved in the conversation. And if I would have just said, Shabbos, like, hello, like, that's so easy to say, he would have felt so let down, like, yeah, so if you'd have said me, I took, like, I see what was going on. But because I rephrased him and let him participate, that I need him in the conversation, that he's capable of communicating, I need him to express himself, he felt so good. Like, yeah, that's what I want to say the whole time. Yeah, that's what I want. So also, usually people don't stutter in a yes or no. And they could always just nod their head and go, uh-huh, and they're still communicating. So that would be the smartest way, if you can be savvy about it, to rephrase it, a yes or no question. In general, if you're at a simcha, in a popular area, better not to be so direct. There's such open-ended questions. If you want to be smart about it and be on the safe side, I'm not saying not to talk with them. Of course, they want to be, they don't want to be isolated. But if you want to be smart about it, you could ask them first in like a yes or no question. You enjoying your yeshiva? Something like that. Or are you excited about camp? Instead of asking them, so which camp are you going to? So that's some suggestions.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Use the reactions tab on the bottom right of the screen and raise your hand. Aaron, did you have a question?
Yes, I'm looking for the reaction button. Okay, I have it. Okay, hi.
About what? I didn't hear.
Hi, yes, I have a question.
Okay.
You hear me? You hear me? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, yes.
Yes, sometimes I had a few clients coming in stuttering. Parents ask me, could it be emotional? Could be this reason why the child is stuttering is just because he has mental health issues. What do you think about it?
So we said before there's such a thing as psychogenic stuttering, could be from emotions, but what are you going to do about it? So you could help them if they're coming to you for their anxiety, then yes, you can treat them with their anxiety, but you have to understand, a good understanding. I hope this will help to understand the challenges that you're facing. We just mentioned 4 of them, the 4 main challenges, and this is chronic, and this is pervasive. So this is what you're dealing with. It's not just in their mind, it's something physical about it also. They're actually stuttering. Another thing is that it's very hard to treat people, first of all, to really understand them. And second of all, when you're trying to treat them for their anxiety, how far are you going to really get with that if they're stuttering? So it's very hard because they have this brick wall wherever they go. So I'll give an example.
How could I know if it's emotional?
What happened?
How could I know if it's emotional or if it's something else? If it's
well, it's hard to know because again, someone who stutters for a while, they're going to have anxiety. I mean, not everyone, but you could expect that they're going to feel that pressure, whatever you want to call it, right? That tension. So that's something that may be because they're stuttering. And like I said before, it's not so relevant maybe what happened in the first place, why it came, because once they're stuttering for a while, you're dealing primarily with the stuttering. And like I said, that brings out usually more anxiety than anything else. Now, I'll give you the mashal, the allegory of treating the anxiety with somebody who stutters. So I like to say like this: imagine someone is walking around and their feet are shaking. So say, oh, we know what this is. We see it. They need muscles for their feet. I mean, it's very obvious, don't you see? Their feet are struggling. And then we look on the 50-pound boulder on their shoulder. So you could try all different kinds of ways to strengthen their feet, and maybe it'll help them. But is it going to really do the job if they're holding 50 pounds? So when you're dealing with stuttering, they have this big barrier in their way.
So when someone comes in my office for stuttering, should I send them to step 1 stuttering? Should I send them away?
So first of all, it's smooth speech solution. Step 1 stuttering, I know I'm signed in like that. That's really just the seminar that was available for the Zoom right now. But when to go for speech therapists and when to go to the mental health professionals. So I would say like this. Again, we mentioned that if it's in the initial stage and you can track that it came from an emotional aspect, then I would say, yes, go to a mental health professional. But once a person is stuttering for a while, it's going to be very hard to treat them. And again, if they're coming to because just their anxiety, then that's obviously a different story. But usually they want help with their fluency. Obviously, they have anxiety from it. But if they can overcome the stuttering, then it'll be much easier for them to work on their anxiety. And maybe they won't need any help at all for their anxiety once they overcome the stuttering. Maybe a lot of things will fall into place once they overcome their stuttering and speak with more fluency.
Okay, Bela, real quick.
I'll just mention one more thing. I would say like this also, it depends where they're holding. If in general, somebody calls me up, as much as I feel that my program really, really helps people, it's not a magic thing that you just come and you stop stuttering. Stuttering is not, sometimes people see success so fast. They think it's like I flick on the switch. I don't stick my hand down anyone's throat and turn on the knob. There's a lot that goes into it. And there's certainly also, after all the, many aspects that go into it, the whole methodology, which is a lot of steps involved, you have to deal with someone who's helpable. They're going to take it seriously, that they're going to do it. So the first question I always ask people is, are you serious about it? Although I feel it's very user-friendly, they have to be ready. I can't just make anybody not stutter. So this is something I always ask. What does the person or the child or the person for themselves, are you ready to take this seriously? And I ask, are they functioning? So if they're not functioning, then how can they be successful in a program that there's a structure to it? It's a process, and they have to be functioning in order to learn the skills. So then I would definitely say they should go to a mental health professional, because how much can a speech therapist help them if they're not helpable? I would say they need to get a toolbox. Now, we can't wait, again, in my opinion, we can't wait for them to be totally, take out all the anxiety, because at the end of the day, it's going to be life is difficult with a stutter for most people. And therefore, they have to be functioning in order to join a speech therapy program.
Yanky, tell us a little bit about the role of mental health professionals in this process. I mean, client comes and they talk about the struggle. The most that a mental health professional potentially could do is obviously refer them to a speech therapist or to smoothspeechsolution.com. I got it right. Yeah. And we can also support them through the challenge and the struggle, and help them grieve what they lost, and process and empower them. But what other roles do we have here, and how do you see it? How do you see us as being helpful? And is there any way that we can actually help the process of the stuttering itself, if we're working, let's say, in collaboration?
So we spoke about when to go to a mental health professional, when to go to a speech therapist to take care of the initial trauma or developmental trauma. Once a person's stuttering, very often they'll need techniques for fluency. Then they should go to speech therapist. What mental health professionals can do, and parents can do, is support them and recognize that this is going to be a process. Even though right now my program is very quick to see results, they're not done, because they need to maintain it. And that's going to be a process. And that's about creating new habits. Now, in my program, there's prerequisites that they need. So we mentioned the basic idea that they have to be motivated, but they also need awareness. They have to realize it's going to be a process. They have to make it a priority. And sometimes people have difficulty with that. Being consistent, believing in oneself, that they're capable. So this is something that, again, if they need help in these areas, they need to go to a mental health professional first to address this, that they can be functioning to be successful in techniques that's going to help them for fluency.
Mm-hmm. So really, in terms of preparedness, it's really in terms of preparedness, getting them prepared for the process.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting question, important question here in the chat box. I know that this has changed since I got to know you? What's the range of time that it takes to see significant improvement with your method? How long would one know if it's not working for them or it's not going to work for them? What's the average range of, you showed us in some cases 4 years later, in some cases 1 year later, and in some cases 1 week later. What should one expect?
Right, so generally, improvement in fluency could take a very long time. In my program, which is started around 9 years ago, it started with around a 2-3 month program. You see results very quickly and just a little bit of follow-up. And then I'm always looking to cater to the needs of people. I saw that a lot of people needed more follow-up. So we changed that and we provided more follow-up for people to hold it down. Sometimes people, the real studious ones, the people who took more responsibility for it, were able to keep it up on their own. However, a lot of people needed more support. So over time, what we developed was former stutterers who are graduates of the program do follow-ups. We call them speech coaches with the newer people. So they're matched up with somebody who's a real role model, who's been there, done that. These are people who all been for therapy in the past and started into their adult life. So these are not the easy ones. Sometimes people just go for therapy and it's like just positive thinking and feeling like I'm spending money, so something's supposed to happen, so get better. But these are the ones that really were difficult, and they came here and they're doing amazing. So they know the methods, they're role models, and they have unparalleled passion to help more people. Now, subsequently, I started to train in many speech therapists, people who are very recognized in the field, and we have branches worldwide. And when I trained them in,
What are some of the places that you have therapists?
In the Tri-State area, we have a few branches in Lakewood, Jackson, Muncie, Monroe, Borough Park, Williamsburg. We have in Los Angeles, we have in Montreal, we have in England, we have in Israel. I'm flown out all over the place as well for groups of people. But right now we'll see that it's a much faster when people come to me. So most people are just coming in to see me. But when I trained in therapists, I had much more structure to it. So we're talking about around 10 sessions and then a few months of follow-up. With me, till recently, till around 2 months ago, it was 5 to 7 sessions, which is very short. And again, they still get a lot of follow-up. I never thought I would be able to do it in one session. I thought, come on, it's not possible. Nor did I think I'll ever be able to overcome stuttering on my own, nor did I certainly never thought of helping anyone else. But over time, with the help of God, over time, the more we help people, the more we learn. And I would say every step of the way, I see the hashgacha pratis, the divine intervention of helping me help more people, because that's my passion. So recently what happened was, I saw someone and there was a lot, it was very busy. And a lot of people wanted to come at the same time. So I told them, you gotta take it seriously. Because basically what I've seen by over 1,000 people is that people who really followed what I had to say did amazing. So in a way, I'm sorry to say, there was like, I guess out of my impatience, because they all wanted to come, if it was hard to do and they had a good excuse, I would be much more patient. But I felt like you can really do this. You just really got to follow what I say, not 80%. You can't expect major results, a breakthrough with just 80%. Some people it works, but what you can expect is that you got to follow it. It's very doable. So this was really the main aspect that changed by drilling it into people. You must take it seriously. And the first person who came at that busy time, I knew he'd be able to do it fast. He's a very capable boy. And I had the parents, the mother was going to come in. I didn't know exactly how long it would take, but it was around an hour and a half. And we would do maybe, instead of 5-7 sessions, we'll do like 2 or 3. Anyway, this boy was really doing well, and his mother was late to pick him up. I felt bad for the boy. He was there. So we just continued on. Anyway, we went on and on and on. I told the mother to wait a little bit more. Mother says, no problem. She'll continue going shopping. And a few hours later, I had the mother come back and I said, try to get him to stutter now. She wasn't able to. I said, call someone who you usually stutter and talk to them. After 10 seconds of the phone call where this person usually stuttered, the person's like, hey, what's going on? Why are you not stuttering? What are you doing? So again, I'm not someone, like you said, a little the skeptical side. I was like, okay, just because it worked for one doesn't mean it'll work for everyone else. And I was so excited to tell the next person, but the next person who came, I didn't say anything. The next person was helped in around 1 hour. That was the fastest so far. The next 20 people were helped in around 2.5 hours. So that's very, very quick. And the main thing that changed was really making sure that they are receptive and ready to follow what we're going to say. Now, it still takes around 2.5 hours. We do hundreds of little steps that put them on track. But every single person, and I have this on videos. I sent some to my broadcast list so they could see it firsthand, and they could see how they say that this is really helping them. And recently, I made a big breakthrough by getting some research behind this, and I have detailed surveys because I know that this sounds so grand, and people will have a hard time wrapping their brain around it. But I have detailed surveys, every single one of them. Phil, I didn't touch it. They signed it. Detailed surveys. The main questions I asked them, besides for how old they are and at what level they stuttered, and etc., some basic information, and what they tried in the past and how old they are. Also, mainly, how did they do this program? Do they feel they have a practical way? Do they feel they have the tools for long-term success? Do they see improvement in real life? When I went for therapy, it was just everything worked in the office, but nothing worked in real life. There was not even any guidance for life. It was just, you figure it out, just keep practicing. And it's, unfortunately, there's a lot of barriers that are in a person's way who stutters that are not being addressed enough. And over here, it's yes, it's the techniques. There's a lot of small steps, but it's also the way we guide people how to integrate it and how to help them maintain it. So it's more about the system that we created of filling the needs of people who stutter, and it's still developing. And I think one day we'll be able to get it faster. But for right now, this is where we're holding the last 22 people out of 22, ages 12 to 50, were able to be helped in a very quick amount of time.
Wow.
And of course, I make sure that they're ready before they come.
So you screen them. You mean you screen them? You screen them, or you make sure that they prepare
And
themselves.
I sometimes tell the parents till it's coming out of their ears. You sure he's ready? You sure? And sometimes the parents will say, yeah, I'm sure he is. I mean, who would want to stutter? Come on, of course.
Yankee, is the process difficult, or is it tedious, or what is it that they have to be so ready for? Or is it just repetition that they have to be motivated for?
Some of the issues is that they're so used to stuttering. This is, like I said, just these 4 challenges. There's a lot more, as I don't remember her name who came on first said that it's something so basic that everyone else seems to have. In one hand, it's apparent. On one hand, we're hiding a lot. So this just makes it very complicated. And this is what we're living with on a daily basis. So to quickly overcome that and start changing things is difficult. Again, for me, it wasn't hard. I'm very motivated. I'm very focused. I'm very driven. So for people like me, it'll be much easier. But for other people, we need to make sure that they are already going to take it seriously and that they're going to follow up. We don't want people who, I sometimes say an example, let's say someone who didn't know how to walk and you teach them how to walk, without crutches, without all different shtick, but the normal way. But that doesn't mean the next day they're going to walk like that. They need rehabilitation. So same thing over here. They need to be able to follow that. So only people, I believe, at least, the people who are going to be successful in real life and long term, which is our goal, is people who are ready to make a breakthrough. And for that, they need to be serious.
Hey, what a fabulous demonstration. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us tonight. On behalf of the mental health professionals, Yanky Kaufman of smoothspeechsolution.com. Is it .com?
Yeah.
Okay, and you can reach him there and you can refer clients there. I'm sure we have to be very sensitive when referring people to speech therapy, or I should say stuttering therapy, that they want it, and and it's not just our own needs that are pushing them to do it because we're becoming uncomfortable with them, right, Hannah? You agree with that? Okay. And again, thanks for sharing this with us. It's fabulous. Good night, everybody.